You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday, which is like almost a cast-off day. Like you're not at the beginning of the week. You're not yet to hump day. It's not Friday Eve. It's just Tuesday, but it's a good Tuesday. It's a good Tuesday, and Boomer's on the board. Hey, bro, how you?
Hey, doing good.
Good for a Tuesday.
For a Tuesday.
What do you say about? Is there a way to be excited about Tuesdays? I mean, are we missing something? Like, should we hype it because of? It's Hump Day Eve. I don't know. What do we do with this? There's no football games on Tuesdays.
No, that's what really stinks is Tuesday, no football games.
Okay.
Starting up.
Should we go ahead and just declare that Rightside Radio refuses to acknowledge Tuesdays anymore?
Welcome to this day.
Yeah, we don't want daylight savings time or Tuesdays, just so you know. All right, hey, welcome to the show. We got a great show laid on for you. No guests today. The content was too thick. I decided, you know what, go with what you got. So, I got a triple dipper filled with stuff you're going to want to know, so hit it, buddy.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. Right out the gate, number 1, got to talk about what's happening in our backyard, right around here, all around us. So we're going to cook up a batch of home fries. That is coming up. Oh, thank you. Throw some on the grill. Thank you so much. Right there in the pan. Home fries is number 1 on the Triple Dipper. And then, you know the deal. Sometimes when I'm getting ready for the show, and I'm pretty sure I got extra content for it today, sometimes when I'm getting ready, I'm like, wow, the wokeness. Oh, Lord, look at all that woke. And next thing you know, I've got a round of stuff, some of which will make you mad, some will make you laugh, some will make you want to throw your radio. Adventures in Woke World is number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then the ultimate question, probably one of the best lines ever used in a campaign, was when Ronald Reagan was debating Jimmy Carter. And he led off with the question, Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Well, I'm asking that question again. Bidenomics is number 3, and I'm going to lead off with the historical moment when Reagan coined a phrase that is still used today. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And the answer is going to be no. All right, let me jump over to my comments. So, by the way, I do see Mike from Eva just texted in that Tuesday is now a flyover day. Yes, it's a flyover. Yes. And Terry from Hartselle said it's Taco Tuesday. Okay, we might work with this.
I like Taco Tuesdays.
We could salvage Tuesday for tacos.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give this some prayer and going over. All right, listen, before I get started here, I got to remind you the monologue, the Right Side Way monologue, is sponsored for you every single day by Southern Immediate Care. Southern Immediate Care, a chain of clinics all throughout North Alabama. Places like Anniston, Gadsden, Atala, 5 locations around the Birmingham area, open 7 days a week. I know the owner. I think the world of him. And anyway, Southern Immediate Care. They are the sponsors for the day's monologue, as always. Okay, here's the deal. I've been seeing a trend. It's a bit of a fatalistic trend. I don't not understand it, but I also don't cotton to it. The trend is for people who are conservative to say, ain't no reason to vote. They've already got the election in the bag because they're going to cheat. Well, first of all, that's a flawed thinking. We don't know for a fact that the cheating is going to be on the same level it was in 2020. There's always cheating. There's always an attempt. But let me just tell you this. As I hear folks saying that the 2024 elections are already rigged, so why bother? Again, a fatalistic view. I got to ask you, was the 2020 election a jacked up mess? Absolutely. Have we fixed all the problems since then? No. Some, but definitely not all. And I get that some of you have the sense that your vote is just an example of, spinning your wheels. Like, why does it matter? What good am I doing? Is anybody paying attention? You could easily ask the question, if I stick out my neck on a campaign, will it be worth it? Well, the short answer is yes, it will. The long answer is The ramifications of good people taking a good stand are not always immediately evident, but they can change the world. Good people taking a good stand, even in small numbers, can change the world just by changing their little piece of it. And that's what I'm talking about today. Nobody listening to my voice today needs to think that they have to go out and change the whole world. But if you just take a stand right where you are, which might mean voting, just in your little small corner, you might be amazed at what happens. And part of that is going to be that none of you sit at home on election day. You will vote. You have to. You have to. If you don't, then they're sure to win. I mean, will somebody somewhere try to cheat? Probably. But I say make them work for it. And to be honest, if we all turn out like we should, it'll work. It will. They will know. Because when good people stand, great things happen. So case in point, let me recommend a book to you. It's on the Rightside Radio website under the recommended reading list. Some of y'all heard me talk about it before. It's called Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. Amazing book. One of the few books that I have read more than once because I got so much out of it. I've mentioned it before. It's mandatory reading in military circles. It's the story of the 300 Spartans who stood in the gap in the face of overwhelming odds. It's a legend. It's history. It's true. It's accurate. It has lessons we can draw from to this very day. Now, many people try to use certain quotes from it, like Molan Labe, as a rallying cry for the Second Amendment, but there's really so much more to it. When you get down to it, there was that one group of men who stood up against all odds, and the truth be told, they may have actually changed the world because the creation of Western civilization sprang from their fight. So here's the deal. I'm going to give you the history lesson. You ready? In the year 480 BC, the Greeks were all a fractured people. Greece was not a nation. Cities like Athens and Sparta and others were known as city-states. Each one was autonomous in their own right, and they often even fought against each other. Some of them were fledgling democracies. They had a senate and that kind of thing, but they were fractured. Now, on the other side of what we now call the Dardanelles, or what was then called the Hellespont, it was a narrow waterway between the island we call Greece and the Persian Empire. There was the mighty Persian Empire, which we now know today as Iran, and it was back then ruled by a tyrant Persian so-called god king named Xerxes. And Xerxes, he had a hunger for world domination. Now, unlike the Greeks, the Persians were ruled by a single authoritarian king, and he had all power over life and death. And one of the few things that the Greeks could agree on, besides their love for the Olympic Games, was their actual hate of the Persians. Xerxes, he decided he wanted the Greek mainland. He assembled the largest army in the then known world. The Persians actually built a pontoon bridge that was over 3/4 of a mile long so they could cross over the Hellespont, and they began marching their army across that bridge with the intent to conquer all of Greece. Now, many of the Greek city-states just capitulated right out of fear. They quit. They didn't even try. Among the ones who did not give in were the city-states of Sparta and Athens. Now, the Spartans, they were a warrior class, right? It's said that a Spartan boy was taken from his family when he was young, and he was raised in the way of the warrior. And when they left for battle, it's said that Spartan mothers would actually tell their sons, "This is your shield. Come back with it, or come back on it." Now, the Athenians, they were not a warrior society, but they were strong in their own right. At the same time, the invasion was beginning. The Olympic Games were actually going on. And because it was considered a holy time or a sacred time, the Spartan Senate refused to mobilize the army to deal with the advancing Persians. But Spartan King Leonidas, he had the authority to mobilize a small force at any time without political approval. He could have 300 of his most highly trained warriors. So King Leonidas made a leadership decision. One man decided to take a few men, and he met up with a few Athenians and some other stragglers. But the 300 Spartans were in charge, and they became the core of a small stand in the face of what is recounted by history as a 1,000,000-man army of Persians. So Leonidas, he chose his battleground very carefully. A very narrow path with cliffs on one side, the sea on the other. And to get from the Hellespont into Greece proper, Xerxes had no choice but to go through this narrow pass in a place we call Thermopylae, a place the Greeks also called the Hot Gates. And the Persians came over, but when they reached the Hot Gates, They met a wall of resistance and they couldn't find a way around it. High cliffs to one side, a massive drop into the water on the other. 300 Spartans stood in the middle. And for 3 days, history says the 300 Spartans and their Athenian brethren, they stood in that gap shoulder to shoulder, and they gave Xerxes' army such a beating. The Spartans literally broke the will of the million-man Persian army, just plain wore them out. Now, history tells us, by the way, this battle really happened. You may have seen movies that were somewhat fanciful or comic books or whatever. The reality is it's true. And there are actually a few quotes that came out of that fight that we believe are actual direct quotes from statements that were made during the battle. At one point, hoping to bring the whole thing to an end, Xerxes sent an emissary to promise Leonidas great wealth and power if he would just surrender. The emissary called out, he said, "Throw down your sword," to which Leonidas is famously have said to responded, "Molan labe," which loosely translates to, "You come and take it." One other quote, which is believed to be true, had the emissary saying to them, "But don't you know that our arrows are so many they'll block out the sun?" To which Leonidas' captain, a man named Dieneces, said, "Well, that is good. Then we will have our fight in the shade today." Unfortunately, though, one Greek traitor showed the Persians a secret goat herder's trail through the mountains, and on the 3rd day, the Persian army flanked the Spartans, ultimately killed them all. The stand of Leonidas and his 300 was over, but history says, though, that those 300 galvanized a movement that went way beyond their actions. On its face, it would seem the 300 Spartans lost that day. They lost the actual battle. If the story stopped there, I'd have to agree. But it's what came after that story that really matters, because the 300 Spartans had made the Persians bleed a lot. Their mightiest warriors were no longer so scary. The separate Greek city-states, they rallied around the stand of the 300. They coalesced together as a unified force of cities that, in effect, for the first time, became a Greek nation. And 1 year after the battle at the Hot Gates, the Persians were soundly defeated by a united Greek people. They limped back across the Hellespont with 2/3 of their army gone. But it didn't end there. Historians believe that on that fateful day, in the narrow pass at Thermopylae, a small group of men took a stand against tyranny and oppression, and they changed the whole world. Had they not done what they did to the Persian Empire, now Iran would now be controlling the entire hemisphere. And if that had happened, then so much of what we now consider to be Western civilization would never have been born, because it was the early days of the new united Greece after the battle at the Hot Gates that we had the origins of things like true democracy, literacy, self-governance, individual liberties. They all sprang out of that time. So yeah, 300 men took on a fool's errand. They did what they did because they were not going to let the Persians just have it and just win easily. They did not know what would happen if they took their stand of the Hot Gates, but they knew for a fact what would happen if they did not. So what do you care about today? School boards, U.S. Senate and House races, good election laws? You want to see wokeism get pushed back? Maybe your deal is critical race theory or fiscal discipline or lower taxes. Maybe you're determined that one day we'll have better foreign policy, or the economy, or energy independence again, or strong foreign policy overall. None of that's going to improve if we stay home and don't vote. We don't hit every target we aim at, but we absolutely miss every target we don't shoot at. So yeah, the 300 Spartan men in the Hot Gates, those are a lesson for the world. They're a lesson about what happens if a small group will take a stand. So yes, next year, I'm telling you right now, all you Rightside ruffians, we will vote. And by God, we will work. And that's a wrap for the Rightside way. Well, yeah, it makes a cool story, and it makes a great movie, and it makes for heroes and the stuff of legends and the things you build statues for. But people don't even realize we might not even have the Western world that we all know and love now, had it not been for just 300 men standing up against impossible odds. That's what happens. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, making it cool to be a conservative. I'm so disturbed. I just found out during the break that Boomer doesn't like meatloaf. I don't know what to think about this.
I do not like meatloaf. I
We were
don't
talking
know.
about-
I think it was just something back when I was traveling so much. We had a lot of meatloaf, and I probably just
Had a lot of meatloaf on the road.
Yeah, I ate so much different stuff on the road. And so some of it, they said it was meatloaf, but I don't know what it was.
So is meatloaf a Southern thing? I jokingly said that's the Oregon side of your family coming out of you, but I don't know. Is
I don't-
meatloaf a nationwide thing?
It was meatloaf. I had a lot of meatloaf and lasagna.
Oh yeah,
Anya.
Yeah, get some anya in you.
Yeah, it was a lot. So they now I just
Too much time on the road.
too much. Yeah.
So we got a local restaurant around here called Pruitt's, and you can always tell there's certain things. We were talking about how just a minute ago somebody texted in. Who was it that texted in? Allison
Taco
from
Tuesday,
Madison
yeah.
said Taco Tuesday, and I said I love me some Meatloaf Monday over at Pruitt's, and then you went,
I just
can't do it.
can't do the meatloaf.
I'm disturbed.
I know, it's all right. I'll eat, I don't know. I just can't do it.
Okay, we'll let it ride. Hey, listen, text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Right off the bat, I got a text here from Ryan from Hazel Green saying, any idea we can make our picks? So I guarantee you he's talking about the NCAA pick'em you set up.
You know what, Ryan? I wish I could tell you. I'm
And no meatloaf
I'm gonna
either.
defer to Yahoo on that one. I'm sure they're gonna release those picks hopefully soon. Tonight or tomorrow.
Because you mentioned earlier, there's Thursday games.
There are Thursday games. Now, if they're doing, have Thursday games for the pick 'em, that's
true.
up to them. But
Because it's the top 25?
top 25, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll see. Surely they're going to release it soon. I wish I could tell you. I looked it up today because I was wondering the same thing, and it said it will be released the 28th or after. Well, 28th or after, that's today. So come on,
Okay, so if you don't know what we're talking about, Boomer, in all his creativity and sports lovingness and lack of meatloaf, decided he was going to go ahead and put together our Right Side Ruffian NCAA Pick'em.
Yes.
And tell them where they can find it.
Yeah, go to our website, www.rightsideradio.org. Top right-hand corner, you will see a little link. You can click it. It'll take you to a page on our website to tell you the directions, and another link that you can push to sign up. And I'm guessing that we will be able to pick your teams, and it's just whoever's going to win, who you think is going to win out of your picks. Push submit, and then we'll see who wins the rest for the season.
Are there prizes at the end of the season?
I'm sure there could be prizes.
As I stroke my chin and ponder, I believe there has to be.
I think so.
Okay, so then we have to figure out what do we do if we tie.
Ooh.
We got to find a way to do the NCAA Pick'em playoffs.
Ooh, okay. We can
I
do
don't know
that.
how we do this.
Well, we'll see who ties first. Are you planning on tying?
No.
With no participation trophies. Come on.
There's no participation trophies on Right Side Radio. By God. All right. All right, listen, we got plenty more where that came from. Coming right back, Dipper number 1, home fries. We'll talk about what's happening in and around you here in Alabama. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. This one, Alabama. I'm talking about this show goes like way on down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back over to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, even Tennessee and Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Well, hey, listen, before I even go any further, let me just go ahead and catch up on some text. Otherwise, they will run away from me. I can tell already that John from Huntsville, he says, I like meatloaf. I don't like it with ketchup on it. Just good knowledge.
Give me meat.
I didn't hear you, Mike.
I know.
just
give me the meat.
Just give me the meat.
Yeah, just give me the meat.
But it's a meatloaf. Now I will say this. Now there's going to be some old school military guys that are going to recognize what I'm about to say.
All right.
Now I may like meatloaf, which is beef, right? But there was a thing that used to be in the MREs called a ham and chicken loaf. Huh. Listen, I don't understand. Why was there a ham and chicken loaf? Why would they? Who decided to put ham and chicken in a pot and scrunch it all up and squish it, and then put it into a tinfoil packet and call it good? What in God's name were they thinking when they said, "How do we keep troop morale up and feed the troops too at the same time?" I don't know. How about a ham and chicken loaf? I don't know. But it was there for years.
I don't know what to say about that because in my head I'm like, oh.
The camera should really be on your face right now because you're like puckering up on this one. I don't know. Some of you old guys, some of you black boot army guys, the ones who used to have to put kiwi on your boots, you remember ham and chicken loaf. And by the way, that was one of the ones that I would typically trade out whenever I got an opportunity. Anybody want a ham and chicken loaf? No takers. Crickets. Where's my crickets? Who's ready? Ham and chicken loaf. Anybody want a ham? No. Okay. Okay. Never mind. Who's got Tabasco? That's the way it went. What else we got in here? Now that I've just had I just chased a total rabbit trail. Roughly Ann from Huntsville. How many podcasts currently? Oh, that's a nice question. Thank you, Lee Ann. Roughly Ann. What are we up to? Boom shakalaka. The podcast. I'm gonna predict you're at 169.7. What do you? 169,700.
168.3.
Oh, I was close.
You were close.
Okay. It's 1,300 off. But
by next week we'll be at that.
that's still smoking hot though.
Yeah, it is.
All right. What's our second biggest audience?
We have. Let's see here. Well, all right. So Virginia and Tennessee.
What?
Yep.
So we've left Florida and California behind.
Yeah, Florida is like in the running for 5th right now.
Florida's busy dealing with a hurricane.
Yeah, so
Okay, that's what it
they got
is.
a hurricane coming.
That's right. Yeah. It's
California,
big doings.
everybody's just moving. so-
Everybody moved out of California. So, yeah. Roughly, Ann, thank you for asking that question. I appreciate it. James from Harvest. Am I in the same place? He goes, Boomer. Oh, you already answered him, I see. James from Harvest said, Boomer's never had my meatloaf with my homemade barbecue sauce. No ketchup. Ick. LOL, but your tongue will slap your face to death trying to get that stuff, bud. Brian from Huntsville. Boomer does not like meatloaf. See, I've started something
know,
here.
you
I'm sorry,
started
man.
something.
I apologize. Boomer does not like meatloaf for crying out loud. Also, cage match if football pick has a tie. Cage match. I like
Cage
it. we appear to have a tie between, I don't know, pick one. Roughly Ann and Boomer. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. All right. I'm just having fun today. I'm just playing. Dallison from Madison says, dang, Phil, your monologue was strong. What a powerful message of inspiration. Definitely gets the vote out. Not voting is the same as giving up. Not an option with our current state of affairs. Thank you, Allison. Appreciate you. And then Ryan from Hazel Green says, tiebreaker, closest guess at the score for the national championship wins. There's a thought. There's a thought.
I like it.
There's a thought. And in honor of the recent passing of the host of
Wheel of Fortune, right? Not Wheel of Fortune.
Let's Make a Deal.
That's it.
Bob Barker.
Bob Barker.
We say it's the closest without going over. There you go.
There it is.
Jimmy from Moulton, Yahoo needs to get on with it. There you go. Okay. Jeff from Indiana says, at first I was thinking you was talking about the singer Meatloaf, and I wasn't going to say what's wrong with that, but I was going to say what's wrong with that boy. Tony from Piedmont sent me something to look at, but I'm not going to right now, but thank you, Tony from Piedmont. We appreciate you. Oh, he also said, only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, in relation to my monologue. Ken from Athens, the most common way Satan controls people is to get them to do nothing. He said, I'm always amazed at how you can rally me to fight for our country and ultimately our God-given rights. That story affects me so much. I love that account of how much of the history of the world can be changed by so few. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that very much. I'm wrapping this up here. Peg Leg Dave checking in. He says, I make meatloaf with onions, garlic, and green chilies. Makes your tongue beat your lips off. There you go.
Sounds good, actually.
I'm saying. And Price is Right is the show. Tim from Madison clarified me. Thank you so much. All right, enough of that. You ready? Here's the deal. We're about to kick off with some things that are happening in your backyard, right around the state of Alabama. Stuff you got to know. Important stuff. Sometimes it's good stuff. It's called home fries. Cooking up a batch of home fries. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say that whereas Boomer does not like meatloaf, that I am a big fan of Auburn football, which he can give me a ration for whenever he feels like it. He's just having a good time today. And having said that, interesting story, Boomer. I don't know if you saw this. Story off of Yellowhammer News. Dateline yesterday. Jordan-Hare Stadium is in the lineup of the nationally historic stadiums to be addressed by Congress as nationally historic.
That's pretty cool, actually.
That actually is pretty cool. Built in 1939. It's had 5 major expansions over the years. It now seats 87,000, makes it the 10th largest on-campus stadium in the NCAA. I didn't realize it was the 10th largest overall.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge. And of course, that monitor they've got at the end of the stadium is like unbelievable. I need that in my den. No, I need a den that can hold that.
That's what I said. A den, you can have it. Yeah.
But the story from Yellowhammer, written by Grayson Everett, starts off, sometimes the world of politics and sports intersect, like the recent effort to keep college athletics fair by regulating name, image, likeness, that's the NIL stuff, and Congress getting in the game with a new caucus to preserve and improve stadiums. It says 4 SEC universities are now listed on the 18 historic stadiums. You got Auburn's Jordan-Hare, LSU's Tiger Stadium, Ole Miss's Vaught Hemingway Stadium, and then Mississippi State's Davis Wade Stadium. The Historic Stadium Caucus will bring together a bipartisan team of officials to work on preserving the legacy of these venues while also enhancing their capabilities so they continue to host world-class sporting events. That's just, I don't know that I ever expected to see that.
I mean, I like it
I'm digging it.
completely.
What I don't want to see, though, is tax dollars being used to improve the stadium. Now, see?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and meatloaf. All right, here we go.
That meatloaf.
I'm gonna wear the meatloaf thing out, bro.
That's all
I'm
it's
sorry.
gonna be today.
It's Meatloaf Tuesday apparently. Here's big doings for you. I like this one. This is good. In case you didn't know, the Republicans did do something Republican this past session in the state legislature. They did cut the grocery tax. Didn't cut it in one big whack. They cut it in phased increments. The very first increment is as of this coming Friday, which is September 1st. Your taxes will be a penny less per dollar as you buy groceries. And that may not sound like much, I'll be honest with you, but it's something. And it's something when you consider that grocery taxes, just the sales tax on groceries alone, funds something like $600 million to the education budget every year. And so they just took a chunk of that off.
Well, I'm glad they did.
Yeah,
I
am
mean,
too.
it should have happened, and also maybe sometime they'll go down a little lower or take the gas tax or something. You know, at least it started.
Yeah.
That's a plus in my book.
Perfect, and I agree with you. The reality is, so it's gonna go down a penny this year, a penny next year, and then depending upon if the budget is still considered to be sound, they can continue to go down a little bit. There's 4 cents on the dollar that comes out of state, and then anything else you pay sales tax wise comes out of your locals. They didn't touch locals because there wasn't their role.
Right.
But we were one of only 11 states left in the nation that even tax groceries at all, because most of them realized the poorest people among us, that's a tax, we're taxing everybody. So it was a way to do something for everybody. State Senator Andrew Jones, who's the one who actually took my place in the Senate, and Representative Danny Garrett from Trussville, they were the ones who sponsored the bill. It drops by a penny on September 1st, and it goes down again the following year. And then if things stay the way they're supposed to, it'll continue to potentially go down. State Department of Revenue says the state sales tax on food will be reduced, and you will wind up seeing that effective immediately this weekend. So get your tax cut. If you're going to buy milk, wait a day. Save that penny. But, I mean, think about it. For every $10 you spent, you just save a dime. You buy $100 worth of food, you just saved $1. So it may not feel like a lot, but it's supposed to be happening that way. What else have I got before the break? Let me see this. Hear about this one. News from around your state. Cooking up a batch of home fries. You were so quick on that button. Cooking up a batch of home fries here. Congressman Mike Rogers, who represents District, 3, I believe? House District 3 in our Alabama congressional delegation. That kind of, if you're looking at a map, Congressman Rogers hails from the Anniston area, and his district runs down the right side, the east side of the state. He is one of the senior members of Congress overall. He chairs the powerful House Armed Services Committee. So that's a major coup for Alabama to have one of our congressional delegation chairing that major committee. That being said, he ain't playing with the Space Command crap. He ain't playing at all. And Congressman Rogers, using his position as chair of House Armed Services, has requested the Government Accountability Office investigate the basing process for Space Command. He specifically wants to know what changed. He wants to know why everything was leaning to Huntsville, every study said Huntsville, and then for some reason, unbeknownst to anybody else, the process was disregarded and the president chose to make it, oh, look, Colorado. He wants to know what changed, and he says the public deserves an independent review to understand how this basing process went awry and failed to follow transparent and repeatable steps which can garner trust in the U.S. in the final basing decisions. And he says, by the way, basing decisions have to be uniform, and he's not wrong. He's the chair of House Armed Services. So even if we were not in the running, even if, everybody's going, oh, he's just fighting for Alabama. Well, of course he is. He's part of the Alabama congressional delegation. But at the same time, he chairs House Armed Services. If Alabama had not been, what if it had been Tennessee and Colorado? What if it had been Vermont and Colorado? He would owe it to the people of this nation because of his chairmanship to find out why the processes were not uniform, because what's happened now is nobody knows what to expect in future. We spend a lot of money on prep. We spend a lot of money and time on doing studies. We spend a lot of resources for public resources only to have it discounted. And so if that's not the process anymore, then how about you tell us what it is? So in the future, other states will know what to expect. Well, he's not wrong. And I did see, by the way, right before the show started, that the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, has agreed to conduct said investigation. That is a big, hairy deal. And I'll be honest with you, I think that Senator Katie Britt sent out a tweet today, and she said flat out, this ain't done. It's going to be in Huntsville eventually, and I believe it probably will. All right, we're taking a break right now. We'll come right back. We're in the middle of Dipper number 1, talking about stuff in your backyard. Batch of home fries. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. We're cooking up a batch of home fries for the day. That's, get that button. Don't. There we go. Nice. Hey, by the way, just notice, speaking of home fries, that the Yellowhammer News just put up a story like in the last few minutes, I believe. It came up just a little bit ago. Regarding our interview, with Senator Gudger, who was here in studio with us this past week.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was a great interview. I really enjoyed having him in studio, too, because it gave us a chance to really kind of take the conversation down the road a little better. And but anyway, so Senator Gudger actually chairs the committee that I used to chair when I was in the Senate, and great conversation about economic development. And so we're pleased to have him in studio. And Yellowhammer News just posted the story. You can find it at yellowhammernews.com, I reckon. So there's that. All right, in home fries, one of the things that I am most proud of, and this comes from our friends at 1819 News, is the fact that Alabama is, leading the way. And by the way, there's going to be several stories in my Adventures in Woke World segment regarding the transgender cult-like agenda that's out there. What they're doing to kids. Yesterday I did my monologue. If you heard it, if you didn't, you can catch it on our podcast. But yesterday's monologue was called Kids Are a Gift from God. And what we're doing to kids, what we're allowing to be done by kids, to kids, is just, to me, something that we're going to be held to account for. And we should, as a culture. I recognize that this audience, by and large, does not at all cotton to what we're talking about with transgender treatments on kids and changing them forever with hormone treatments and even surgeries. But I am proud of the fact, though, that Alabama has taken a stand on that. I'll call balls and strikes. When I see something I don't like in the legislature, I'll tell you. At the same time, when I see something I do like, I'll tell you. One of the things I am very proud of is that last year, actually, 2022, the Alabama legislature passed a law banning those treatments. And we most recently had the Supreme Court say, it's okay. No, I take it back. It was the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals said it's okay. That law can be enforced right now, because just like always, we passed the law banning the treatments and the surgeries. Immediately, liberal activists like the ACLU and Southern Poverty Law Center and other screamers got involved in I just call them screamers, but that's what they are. Anyway, got involved, sued the state. The judge, Judge Lyles Burke, who I sort of know Lyles Burke. I mean, I've met him, and he's a decent guy. He's a Republican, but he's a federal district court judge. He did enjoin the enforcement of the law as to the hormones. He allowed that to go forward. Keep treating with the hormones. Stop the surgeries for now. But the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals said, no, Judge Burke, you know what? That law was duly passed, and it's enforceable. So right now, the case against the merits of the law will go forward. But in the meantime, no more hormone treatments, no more surgeries on kids. Cornell law professor William Jacobson recently did a podcast with the folks over at 1819 News. Story here on 1819 came out yesterday about his comments. He is basically saying the state of Alabama is a leg up. He says that basically Alabama, he says, I think very wisely has said that for children that you cannot give these life-altering, irreversible, in most cases, and very damaging medications for the purpose of dealing with gender identity issues. He says sometimes those drugs can be used for true medical conditions. It's unusual. It's rare, but it happens. He said, but if you have a medical condition that requires those drugs, they can still be given in Alabama, but you can't give them because you have a confused 9-year-old unsure of what they believe about themselves. Jacobson went on to, he's a Cornell law professor, by the way. He went on to liken the drugs given to minors as a form of child abuse. He said, you may have a constitutional right to raise your child in a particular religion. You don't have the constitutional right to do physical damage to your child. And that's what's been happening. It's just unbelievable to me. He said it's a bizarre ideology and that American physicians have become corrupted. I do not disagree. So much is going on right now, even in the medical practices, that doctors don't feel like they are given the leeway to actually be doctors. I mean, treat the basic injuries, sure. But what's happening now is so many medical practices and doctors are owned by corporations, massive corporations, that if the corporation has a narrative, the doctors wind up becoming bound. And then they have to either push against the narrative and lose their jobs, or they have to just basically go out on their own. Well, the bottom line is this. Horrible things happen. We've already got European countries that are saying no more of this stuff, no more of this transgender treatments. It's not gender affirming, it's gender destroying. And what he's saying here is, Alabama, this Cornell law professor, William Jacobson, Alabama, good on you. And he's calling us up for it. I appreciate it. All right, listen, I got a few more home fries. When we get back from the break, we'll talk about it. Stuff happening right here in your backyard. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, just plain right. Welcome to hour number 2 on Taco Tuesday. We're gonna go with it. Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday.
Does that mean we're having tacos tonight? I got to call Charlene.
I could have tacos any night.
You could.
I like tacos.
But not meatloaf.
But not meatloaf.
All right. Hey, listen, I'm in number 1 of the Triple Dipper. Going to wrap it up here in this segment. Home fries is where we are. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Cooking up them home fries all day long for us. So let me give you some background on something a lot of people don't know. Every time you see an ABC store, a liquor store, an ABC store, it is a state-owned liquor store. It's the Alabama Beverage Control Board's store, ABC store. That means that everybody who runs the cash register, stocks a shelf, or handles the goods inside there is a state employee. Can you imagine? They're on state benefits. They have everything that a state employee would have for having an hourly wage, and it's unreal. Here's the other thing. It is one of the few examples out there where, for reasons that I've been opposed to for years, it is one of the few examples out there where, for some reason, the state is allowed to compete with the private sector. I mean, think about it. Where else do we have state-owned grocery stores? Do we have, I don't know, state-owned gyms? Maybe, but all I'm saying is this. Why is the state in the business of selling retail alcohol? It's a numbers game, to be honest with you. And I do appreciate, yesterday on the show we had State Senator Arthur Orr from Decatur. He's had a burr under his saddle for years about this. Every year when I was in the legislature, he would drop in a bill to abolish the ABC board, and one of the few people who would co-sponsor it with him was me. Because I get it. There's no, well, at the very least, do away with their retail sales. Now, I understand that the ABC board may have an enforcement mechanism. They may make sure that alcohol is not being sold to minors, that kind of stuff. But why are they in the process? Why are they in the business of selling alcohol? Why is that? Well, let's see. There were always some shady things that were happening. Did you know that the law in Alabama says that the state cannot own the facilities in which the liquor stores are run? Why? I don't know. It's a leasehold. It's required to be a lease. Oh, so that means somebody else out there gets a permanent government lease at overpriced lease rent. Huh. Who do you suppose? Well, the long-held rumor was that if you were to dig deep into the various LLCs that own all the ABC store properties, you might find some former state legislators who own leases on ABC stores who would never, ever vote to see that go away. Now, I'm giving you what's been known as the worst-kept secret in Montgomery. I don't have a piece of paper in my hand that says, and here they are, but I'm going to tell you right now, the rumor has long been that that's the case. And you'll find, too, by the way, every once in a while, you'll see it. The ABC board will shut down a store and move down the road to a brand-new ABC store facility for reasons that no one can figure out because all they did was move a half mile away. What's the purpose? Maybe somebody with influence built a store and got the lease. It's a freaking mess. It really is. So another thing that's happening right now, a story here on Alabama Daily News. The Alcohol Board, ABC Board, seeks a new warehouse, new offices, and the members of the board are questioning the cost. $100 million. Boomer, it caught your attention on that one. $100 million is the estimated cost of building a new ABC agency warehouse so they can store all the alcohol that they then sell in competition and, oh, by the way, deliver out. It's almost, as the article points out, almost every bottle of liquor sold in Alabama flows through the current Montgomery warehouse. And according to the RFP posted on the board's website last week, the agency's operations have nearly doubled in the past 10 years, outgrowing the current 140,000 square foot warehouse space that they have in Gunter Industrial Park. So one of the board members, the administrator, Curtis Stewart, says, and Michael Bedford, the project manager, says, we're to the point we're busting at the seams. And state law says ABC has to lease their facilities. So that means somebody in the RFP is going to build a huge warehouse and then lease it back to the state for $120,000 a month. Does this feel like waste, fraud, and abuse? Boomer suddenly is going in the warehouse business. The board pays $120,000 a month for the warehouse and administration building, as well as 4 smaller warehouse spaces it's rented the last decade as the demand for space grew. I'm telling you, the whole thing is messed up. And oh, by the way, the markup on liquor, when you run through the state like this, the markup on liquor is 35%. A $10 bottle would cost $22.33 after that markup. The state's 56% liquor tax. I mean, it's unreal, y'all. By the way, I'm not like we need our Ripple to be cheaper. I'm not advocating that. What I'm just saying is, this is one of the situations where you have to look at it and go, why the heck does this keep on going? Well, the ABC board is like a mini mafia. I mean, good luck trying to get something done when you've got a bill that changes the ABC board. They come in and they hire their lobbyists. They're a state agency with lobbyists. It's crazy. All that to say, $100 million for a warehouse. I'm pretty sure we could fund school choice on that. Just saying. But they're separate budgets, Phil. I don't care. Money's fungible. You know it. All right. Hey, my buddy Larry Stutz, who's in the Alabama State Senate. Larry Stutz, the senator from Tuscumbia County here in northwest Alabama. He's also a physician. In fact, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of cool. Larry Stutz is one of the few people I know who is both a licensed veterinarian and a licensed OBGYN. He's a physician. So basically, he can birth your people and birth your cows. He can do both. But Larry Stutz, being of the medical background, he responded to questions from 1819 News, separate story came out today, talking about the fact that, okay, we're seeing an increase in COVID around the nation. Technically, it's an increase, but it's not scary. Says there's 12,000 hospitalizations around the nation as of mid-August. 12,000. We have a population of 350 million. Anyway, I'm not trying to downplay it because COVID does hurt some people, but the reality is this. Larry Stutz is saying he's seeing people wearing masks already, and he's not sure why. He also said he hopes those in charge of Alabama don't have the same reactions they did in 2020. His words, Dr. Stutz, Senator Stutz, says, if you want to wear a mask, wear one. But I don't want any mandates. He said, I'm hopeful people learned that it didn't work last time. It just ran its course. He said the original deal was wear a mask and social distance to flatten the curve. That didn't occur. Then he says there was get a vaccine and you can't get it, and that wasn't true. And then if you get a vaccine, you can't transmit to other people. That wasn't true. So it ended up, this different variant ended up running its course over a couple of years. He said, I hope that state health officer and others learned that the mandates didn't work last time. No reason to do it again. He said, if COVID does make a resurgence, the guidelines are pretty simple. He said, if you're sick, stay home, wash your hands, use common sense. It's what we've done for generations. These are things we know that help reduce the spread of infections, and the things we did last time didn't work, so don't be stupid and do them again. There you go. Man's a doctor and a legislator, and I'm glad. Last couple things here in my list. I'll just tell you. I'll tell you what, I'll just pick one. So Senator Tommy Tuberville, still hanging on, man, and the military has no idea what to do with him. The DOD is like, what do we do here? Here's what you do, Secretary Austin, Secretary of Defense Austin. Go ahead and start running your confirmations. Tell Chuck Schumer, just go ahead and start running the confirmations. You just won't be able to run them fast. Just run them under the regular order of business. But he won't. But in the meantime, polling conducted in August shows that support from Alabama voters for Senator Tommy Tuberville's holds on nominations is reaching, epic level favorability. Story on Yellowhammer came out yesterday. Tuberville's holding things up. 45% of respondents backed Tuberville's position. 33% do not back it. That leaves some undecided. But what we're saying there is the vast majority of those who were polled, it's favorable towards Tuberville and what he's doing. And by the way, in polling land, when you've got 45, 40, and 33 against and some undecided, you can just imagine that's a pretty decent poll, actually. Tuberville's doing what he needs to do. He is. He's doing the right thing. It's not hurting our military at all. In the meantime, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to come right back, and we will move to one of our favorite segments of all, Adventures in Woke World. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Oh, man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. I got several text messages I'll get to here in one moment. Before I do that, though, we're wrapping up Home Fries. Going to move over to Adventures in Woke World after I talk to Sparky from Harvest. Sparky, how you doing, man?
Hey, good show, you and Boomer.
Hey, man, thanks.
Enjoyed the discussion on the ABC stores. I was ignorant of all that.
Oh,
it's informed us of. I don't know if I've ever set foot in one, and I've consumed enough beer and alcohol to float the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Trust me. So I don't know why they're there. So, but listen, on a related topic, did you monitor that Biden's alcohol czar, and did we even know we had an alcohol czar?
I didn't.
Decided that
I did not know.
The recommendation from Biden's alcohol czar has been standing that American men should have no more than 2 alcohol beverages a day, and women no more than 1. But they're liking a lot Mr. Trudeau's policy in Canada, which is 2 and 1 beverages per week. And I'm thinking, okay, let's see how that floats if we ever wanted a real live insurrection to happen. Try and enforce that beyond a recommendation in the United States. Come on, man.
And people think, well, that's not enforceable. There's no way they could do that. But here's the thing. Here's what they do. As they begin moving more and more towards socialized medicine, well, if the government has already told you they'll pay for your medical care, but the government has also told you can only have 2 beers a week, and then somewhere down the line you have a cirrhosis of the liver or something else, and they accuse you of being, beyond the norm is what was recommended. Guess what? They don't cover your medical needs at that point because you decided to be high risk.
Exactly, and you kind of stole my thunder because that's where I was taking this.
Oh, okay, sorry.
think about who's already on government health care. My wife's on Medicare. I'm gonna be. We're on whoever's on TRICARE. Anybody who's on VA provided medical care, they're already subject right now, I think, to be filtered by the prism of these what sound like soft recommendations, but will become hard mandates.
Yes.
When it comes to whether they're going to provide you care or not. So that's kind of outrageous to me.
Well, it is outrageous, and I look at it and think it's at some point you have to recognize that government doesn't have a role in everything. I mean, this doesn't have a role. Not even stay in your lane. Like, why do you even have a lane in that regard?
Well, think of what the federal government's role is, or what their lane are supposed to be: the protection of our sovereign borders, and providing that the American citizens' rights and privileges under the Constitution aren't trampled upon. They're doing the exact opposite and have been, obviously, for many years.
Unreal. Hey, Spark, before I let you go, I got to ask you a question. All those days when you were a green suitor, and I'm sure you ate a few MREs in your time, did you or did you not care for the ham and chicken loaf? Remember that one, ham and chicken loaf? Who thought that up?
I did not particularly dislike that because I was an improvisational cook out in the field. I do things with MREs were sort of the basis. What I could not, was chicken a la king, if you remember that.
Oh, my gosh,
Whenever I'd come in from night flying, it was like, that was all that's left. There's 3 boxes of MREs open in the camp, and they're all chicken a la king, and you're going to love this. I had a fine artillery officer, a lieutenant, who said, Sparky, I'm going to square you away. He comes back from the S4 the next day with a brand-new banded box of MREs. It's got the factory bands on it and everything. So I said, well, this is how you treat somebody with respect. Thank you very much, sir. And I cut the bands with my Gerber knife. I pop open the box, pull it out, chicken a la king. Pull another one out, chicken a la king. Pull it out, chicken out. He had gone down and he had carefully cleaned them and loaded them in and rebanded them down at the fore shop. And I was helpless with laughter. I was crying and laughing at the same time. One of the best pranks I ever suffered in my life.
I hope you flew him nap of the earth with the doors open for a while, right after he ate a batch of that stuff, sometime soon thereafter.
That was one rock solid guy. 13 Fox, salt of eel.
Oh, that's good stuff, man. All right, Sparky, we appreciate you, man. You have a great day, buddy.
All right, great show. Bye.
All right, thanks. Who's on that next, Boomer? I can't read that one on the board right now. What you got? Oh, is that Brian? Brian from Huntsville. Hey, buddy, I got about a minute. What you got, man?
Well, the ham and chicken loaf, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd take some stuff out in the field with me, and I'd chop it up, put in some aluminum foil with some chili beans, and set it on the back grill of the M1A1, and heat it up, and it would turn out okay.
I'm going to tell you right now, if you were cooking up ham and chicken loaf with Tabasco and beans, you were nobody's friend about an hour later.
Especially inside of a tank. Yes, you are correct. But it was better than my buddy Max, who would bring kimchi in, and you could smell it in the tank for 3 days in the field going through his pores.
That is certain things have to be banned. Like I think kimchi in a tank, that's just a fart can is all that is. It just at that point. That's awful.
Yes, it was evil. You have a good day.
All right, see you, man. All right, listen, I got several text messages. We're going to come back here from the break in a moment. We're going to jump into Adventures in Woke World. By the way, speaking of rations, where'd he go? Raven from Russellville. He's an old school guy. He says, we had sea rats, ham and gravy in a can cold. He said, that alone is enough to cause PTSD. And he said, and I still put kiwi on my Cochrane boots. Keep on keeping on, Phil and Boomer. Thank you, Raven. We appreciate you, man. What else have I got here? Jeff from Town Creek says, hello. When and where is the job fair? I don't know what we're talking about, but okay. Just I think he was texting somebody else. Lisa from Huntsville. The state needs to get completely out of the liquor business. They claim it's a huge cash inflow with the state, but I don't see how. Well, there's a lot of people buying liquor. That's how. But the reality is they do a good markup, and they send about $363 million a year to the general fund or the education trust fund. I forgot which. So it's a cash cow, and that's the reason why it's still there. Plus, like I said, I think there's some people that control certain things. Marcus from Huntsville says Alabama does not allow car manufacturers to sell vehicles in the state either. A manufacturer must sell to a car dealer who can choose whatever he wants for the vehicles. This is why you do not see Tesla showrooms in Alabama, because Elon Musk does not want people hiking up the prices. I did not know this. I shall check this out. In the meantime, we'll take a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful, beautiful state in the nation, Alabama. I mean, this show goes way on down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. I'm going to get a few more text messages. And before I do that, I see I got a call on the line. So let me grab Mike from Elkmont. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Oh, brother, I'm blessed. What about yourself?
I'm doing good enough. How about that?
All right, all right. No, yeah, when I went in, we were still on sea rations, which the best thing on the planet was canned peaches.
Oh, yeah.
But then we went to the MREs, and the worst thing ever was fruit cake in the full packs. But I was in an extraordinary small unit, and because of that, we tended to get, on the supply drops, we tended to get left out.
Oh.
You've never seen anything like 4 hungry snipers fighting over a piece of fruit cake that fell in the dirt, but wanting that fruit cake very, very badly. But we still ate and enjoyed that dirty piece of fruit cake that we split 4 ways.
Oh, good enough, man. Hey, appreciate your service too, Mike. Thanks so much. What branch of the service were you in?
United States Marine Corps.
All right, Semper Fi. We appreciate you, and thank you.
Hey, thank you for your service too, Phil.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. Good calls. Yeah. So MREs, they get a bad rap. I mean, you think about it though. Look at what other nations feed their armies. Wow, we actually do pretty well. And I remember the fruitcake. The fruitcake didn't bother me much, but the one that people would fight over was if you got the one that had the chocolate nut cake in it. Oh yeah, if you get the chocolate nut cake, and it came in a pouch. I mean, picture of something about the size of a Pop-Tart, right? But it's a piece of pressed cake. And you get the chocolate nut cake. It was legit, man. It was real. And then you never had time to make the coffee. But if you were out on patrol, you could take the little instant coffee packet they put in there, and just pop it between your cheek and gums and let it just sit in there like putting in a dip, and that caffeine would just bleed into your system and keep you awake. And they I'll never forget too. One day at Ranger School was right when they were coming out with what we call the second generation of MREs. And one of the guys opened his MRE, and it had M&Ms in it. And everybody's like, what? You got what? MREs. They got M&Ms. Well, one of the Ranger instructors walked over and was just starting to chew this guy out. Come here, Ranger. What are you doing sneaking in that pokey bait like that? Just giving him what for. And one of the other instructors had to go, John. It's the new MREs, man. They got MREs. They got MREs with M&Ms in them. What? He thought, the world was coming to an end. Anyway, all right. Brandy from Athens says the best MRE ever was the Chili Mac. Chili Mac. Yes. Tony from Piedmont. I think the Trunsville, anyway. Oh, he's talking about Harley Davidsons. Yeah, you can get a Harley Davidson without having to go through. He says bought one in Iraq in 2005, shipped to Trussville. They had to assemble it and didn't get a dime. That's interesting, man. Hey, Tony, appreciate you, man, as always. Bob from Madison says, when my son was in Special Forces in Africa, he would eat birds, snakes, and even monkeys to avoid the MREs. John from Huntsville says, Boomer, you need to cook up some seafood loaf. I don't know what was just said to me, but don't ever say those words again. Those words should never be in the same thing. Doman from Harvest says, Jenga bars. Yes, Jenga bars. And then Mike from Huntsville, he points out, great point, Mike. I had not thought of this. Talking about the alcohol limitation. So the recommendation from the Canadian government is no more than 2 alcoholic drinks a week. All right. And I'm not a big drinker, but how are you going to govern that anyway? Why is it your role to govern that? He says, so Canada, this is Mike from Huntsville, Canada is okay with assisted suicide, but they don't want you to drink too much. He said, are people this stupid? And the answer to that is yes, they are. All right, listen, here's the deal. Every once in a while when I'm getting the show ready, you guys know, those of y'all that listen on a regular basis, you know what happens. I get there early in the morning, I'm working on the show, I'm starting to read through the resources, figuring out what my dippers are for the day, and I start going, man, look at the wokeness. Oh my gosh, how much wokeness can there be? Did you see all the wokeness? And I realize I've got so much of it. I've got a vast buffet of wokeness. I've got a veritable cornucopia, a plethora, if you will. And we have to do another segment of Adventures in Woke World.
Adventures in Woke World.
Turn your camera on. I just told Boomer, I said, turn your camera on. Your face is... all right. Boomer, what's a Streamy Award? Do we know? A Streamy Award.
Streamy or
Like there's the Emmys, there's the Tonys,
okay.
there's the Academies, there's the CMA Awards. What is a Streamy Award?
Streamy, like, are you talking about like streaming?
I guess.
Maybe?
I guess. Streaming online.
Maybe social
content?
media? I don't know.
Guess.
They have that?
Well, apparently, because I'm holding up the highlighted article so that all the world can see.
Streamies.
Story on the Post Millennial. So Dylan Mulvaney's back in the news. Dylan Mulvaney, the crusher of the soul of Bud Light. Dylan Mulvaney won an award for Best New Creator at the Streamies Award. And he's beside himself because he won the award.
Oh, my God.
I'm pretty sure it's a participation trophy.
Oh, I bet it is. I bet that's all these are.
So
Way to
trans TikTok influencer Dylan Mulvaney, who's all of 26 years old, won a Streamy Award for Breakout Creator at the 2023 Streamy Awards and he was so excited. So excited. His comments were, I'm really shocked. I thought the only award I might ever win was maybe a Tony. He thought he'd win a Tony?
He thought he was going to win a Tony.
Because now I'm a musical theater gal with Streamy. What? Mulvaney exclaimed while wearing a red satin mini dress, diamond necklace, blonde tresses, and high heels. Yeah. This points out, by the way, what?
I'm just, sorry, I don't have anything to say. I'm just
Would you just
Dylan
rather
Mulvaney.
eat meatloaf right about now?
I would rather eat meatloaf than talk about Dylan Mulvaney.
Since the Bud Light marketing campaign that celebrated Dylan Mulvaney's 365 days of girlhood in April, Anheuser-Busch has lost billions of dollars in revenue over nationwide boycotts of the brand and the coveted title of America's best-selling beer. Mulvaney recently slammed Bud Light for not supporting him through the backlash and escaped to Peru because he had to feel a sense of safety after becoming an infamous controversial. To Peru?
He went to Peru because his feelings were hurt because Bud Light would not back him when they were losing billions.
So let me ask you this. Is Peruvian culture safer for transgenders than the wokeness we have here in America? I just have a feeling he might get buried out there in like some kind
why
of
would he go there?
Jungle environment.
And why is he boo-hooing? Because I'm sure he still got paid.
Oh, dude. He's probably
I
a
don't
millionaire.
even want to know how much he was.
I don't even want to know either. But he did win a Streamy.
But he got himself a Streamy.
He thought he might win a Tony, but at least he got a Streamy. Nice.
Go for that Streamy Award.
Oh, my gosh. All right, so next case I've got here for your wokeness pleasure. So a federal judge. All right, let me ask you this. Were either you or the lovely McQueen involved in frat life or sorority life in college? Neither one. Athletics and all that kind of stuff.
Just athletics.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess athletics would be its own
Yeah.
fraternity or sorority.
I was not personally. I was super involved in like student government and ROTC, but the lovely Charlene, she was a Chi-O. So yeah, she was. I cannot imagine, and my daughter, she was a sorority girl. I cannot imagine my daughter having to stay in a house, a sorority house, where dudes who think they're chicks are allowed to stay. It's apparently where we are.
I don't understand this. Like, why would they allow this?
Well, it gets worse. It went to court. The girls of the sorority house were like, the dude's peeping on us. I mean, they were describing behavior that is not good. And it says in March, several current and former members of the University of Wyoming's Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority sued the national sorority to revoke the membership of what they described a peeping transgender student who goes by the name of Artemis Langford. Artemis, despite the women's descriptions of Langford's alleged actions, was not thrown out. In fact, the judge ruled in Artemis's favor. Yeah, it gets worse. Hang on. This is a judge. This is sitting on the bench. This is the objective view of the judge. Here's the quote. The University of Wyoming chapter voted to admit, and more broadly, a sorority of hundreds of thousands approved Langford. That's Artemis Langford. With its inquiry beginning and ending there, the court will not define woman today. What? The court? Who's the judge? It's a federal district. By the way, this is a federal district court judge. Federal. The judge, the court will not define woman today. The delegate of a private voluntary organization interpreted woman, otherwise undefined in the nonprofit's bylaws. So it has to be in your corporate bylaws now to define what a woman is? That's required of someone who sits on the bench? As an attorney, by the way, I find this to be unconscionable. This is a shock to the conscience. Says this judge, this is finishing the quote, expansively, this judge may not invade Kappa Kappa Gamma's freedom of expressive association and inject the circumscribed definition the plaintiffs urge. Meaning, I ain't getting into it. Y'all figure out what a woman is. That is an abdication of common sense right there. That is an absolute assault on normalcy. The girls say, though, that the dude doesn't even always act like he's really the trans chick that he says he is. That only occasionally does he wear women's clothes. He's never undergone any treatments. He's often unshaven. He doesn't take female hormones. He's not doing laser hair removal. And they catch him peeping at them at awkward times. I'm not even going to tell you some of the other things that it says. But here's the bottom line. This is wrong. For a federal district court judge, who's the judge? Where's the name? Is the name in here? It's a federal district court judge, and I don't see the name of it. Why is the name of the judge not on here? But the bottom line is, I cannot imagine someone sitting on the bench. Of course, we do have a Supreme Court justice who defined. Ketanji Brown Jackson, during her confirmation hearings, declined to admit what a judge was or what a woman was. But this particular federal district court judge apparently feels emboldened by that and says, the court will not define woman today. What a farce. What an absolute woke farce. All right, listen, we're going to take a break right now. We will come right back and take more of your text messages and calls if you want to. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. We're in Adventures in Woke World. It just gets woker from here, y'all. Stay tuned. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Making common sense a superpower. All right, we are in Adventures in Woke World. And I got to tell you, there's a couple things out there that are just, they defy logic, which, I'll be honest with you, Woke World is oftentimes illogical. Some of y'all know about SpaceX. That's the company owned by Elon Musk, the world's richest man. The guy who owns the former Twitter, now known as X. Now he also owns SpaceX. He owns Tesla. No telling what else. So SpaceX, if you're not familiar, actually deals in highly confidential and sensitive national security issues as a contracting firm and as a, under contract to build certain things for the space industry. And guess what? They're being sued by the Department of Justice. Why would that be? Because the DOJ is saying they don't hire enough non-permanent residents. What? That's your case? You're going to go in there and say, SpaceX, owned by the guy, by the way, who's been in your face for a while now about freedom of speech and things like that. You're going to say that SpaceX is guilty of not hiring enough non-Americans. What the heck is, does anybody... I mean, do you just look around and find things as being completely upside down sometimes? Which is what Adventures in Woke World really is. It's when the things are upside down and we have to run through the adventure of dealing with it. So everybody with, this article is from hotair.com, by the way. Hotair.com came out yesterday afternoon and says, everybody with 2 or more working brain cells strongly suspects to a near certainty the investigation that led to this point has been politically motivated. You think? Says ever since Musk, who has been a loyal Democrat in the past, switched sides and made clear he thinks Democrats have gone nuts and are anti-freedom, they've been calling for investigations and harassing him. Points out that every major politician from the left has called him a security risk. He's even been singled out by President Biden. He said it would be silly to ignore this. The Justice Department's actions are pretty clearly weaponized government. The DOJ, though, as it turns out, the article points out in Hot Air, should be suing itself because many federal agencies specifically note that they only hire U.S. citizens for their jobs. So I'll be honest with you. First of all, I am confused why this is the DOJ's priority. I assume they have a department that handles complaints about not hiring enough resident aliens. Why do they have that department, by the way? Why is that a priority in government? It should not be. When you have a government so big that it can do things like suing a major company for not hiring enough non-Americans, then your government has gotten out of control. And that's where we are. How much time we got, Boom? I got time for that audio we talked about a minute ago? I think we do. It's a short one. Yes, okay. I'm moving to the next story then because I'm leaving behind the SpaceX. It just frustrates me. How about this? There was indeed a racially involved shooting in Jacksonville, Florida, just in the last few days. A tragedy. It appears some white dude decided all he wanted to do was kill black people. They did catch him, not before he killed 3 people, though. And that's a tragedy. And if there are hate crime laws in Florida, this one certainly qualifies, and he definitely ought to be prosecuted as such. However, the liberals who hate guns have immediately launched into it's all about gun control. And we got to have more gun control. Well, leftists, it says, quickly also blame Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Like, what? Reasoning that his anti-woke agenda had somehow caused the shooter's blatant racism. No, it didn't. And the fact that he has a constitutional carry bill passed by the Florida legislature enabled the shooter to carry out the mass. No, he didn't. He got his guns legally. The problem is he was a bad person. All right, listen to this. This is the audio of the sheriff doing the press conference. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to tell you something about him. Hit it, Boomer.
The story is always about guns. The people are bad. This guy's a bad guy. If I could take my gun off right now, lay it on this counter, nothing will happen. It'll sit there. But as soon as a wicked person grabs a hold of that handgun and starts shooting people with it, there's the problem. The problem is the individual. So how great was that? Thank you, Sheriff, for standing up at a press conference when someone asked you a question about gun control and pointing out, no. I've got a gun on my hip right now. If I take it off and lay it right here on the table, it does nothing. It's when the wicked person grabs it, he says, that it happens. Let me point out something, too. That sheriff,
is a black man. The shooting was racially motivated against black people, and he was having none of it. He was all for the idea of the perpetrator being brought to justice, absolutely. And yet he was not crying racism and he was not crying gun control. He, as a black man himself, a black sheriff, knows that the laws of this state are already in place to prevent bad guys from getting guns illegally, and that the idea that we're going to infringe upon everybody else's constitutional liberties because one wicked man picked up a weapon and did something. So good on him, and I really appreciate that. By the way, Boomer, I did not get that sheriff's name. I had it in this article, and I do not have it with me now. If you see it in that link that I sent you, man, let me know, because I want to call his name out and just, use my microphone to thank him by his name. Good on him. Last story I got. Let's see. Do I want to do that right now? No, I'm not, because the music's playing. Ha! See how that works? Pastor knows when to quit preaching. All right, I got a little more woke world. We'll finish it up in a segment when we get back, and then we'll try to get into some Bidenomics as we close out the day. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Hour number 3. Inexplicably, it is hour number 3 here on Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. I'm in Woke World, Adventures in Woke World, and I got several text messages. Roughly in, again, from Huntsville, texted in, said, I just took my nausea pill. I get it. Some of these stories, man, I'm just telling you. TC from Priceville is looking forward to the pick'ems and wants to see that list released soon so he can pick his winners, but he says, as always, roll tide. He's also down, he says he's headed down to Troy for their opener versus FSA. What would that be? Florida Atlantic? Okay. JT Lacey Springs sent me one. Yeah, in fact, JT, you bring up a great point. I tell you what, JT, I'm going to skip forward to that story right now because JT just sent me one that's actually in my stack. Where is it? Hang on, I'm getting there. Riley Gaines. Y'all remember Riley Gaines? She was here in Alabama not long ago, spoke at the Madison what was it? Moms for Liberty did the Madison Library event with Kirk Cameron and Riley Gaines. All right, now that I finally got my words out, Riley Gaines was really. I mean, she's become somewhat of an icon that is making the liberals can't stand her because she's got the street cred. They can't talk around her because she's been there and done that. And Riley Gaines is literally standing up for women's sports almost better than anybody I've seen because she is a female athlete, you know, a great one, a swimmer, collegiate swimmer. And she's also, by the way, somebody who's had to compete against dudes who think that they're chicks. All right, so Riley Gaines recently was in Nebraska doing what she does, which is speaking out on the topics at hand. And State Senator Megan Hunt, who's apparently a liberal, doesn't say this, but the story here on townhall.com dated yesterday. State Senator Megan Hunt from Nebraska insinuated, though, that the only problem here, really, this is the issue, is that Riley Gaines is just bitter about competing against dudes because she did not win a trophy. That's what it is. You're just sad you didn't win a trophy. Yeah, Senator Megan Hunt is a Democrat till this year. She now claims to be an independent. Here's her quote. It can be hard when we're young not to win a trophy sometimes, but we grow up and realize it's not the end of the world, and we don't need to turn that loss into our entire personality. That was her tweet about Riley Gaines, to which Riley just like body slammed her and said in response, it's not about a trophy, never has been. That trophy is meaningless and devalued entirely. It's about the message it sends to us. Nebraska girls deserve better than you. Woo! And then she says, and by the way, I didn't lose to the 6'4" male who was cosplaying as a woman. We tied. Sore loser argument doesn't work here, but good try. Good for you, Riley Gaines. I mean, like, what a hero. Build a statue in her honor. But yeah, I mean, what a stupid thing for a state senator to say. And you're just mad because you didn't get a trophy. No, I'm mad because he got a trophy. That's what we're mad about. We're mad that he, and what does she say, cosplaying as a woman. That's the issue. The very idea that a state senator is going to say that and think it's going to fly on by. All right, let me jump back. You ready? Have we lost San Francisco? Boomer, you ever been out to San Francisco?
Yeah, many times.
Your tours and all? Beautiful city, huh?
Yeah, absolutely pretty.
You feel like we've lost it? I don't know.
Well, if there's poop in the streets with poop patrols and some extracurricular needles in the street, I don't know. I haven't been out there in a long time, but what I've heard is not good.
You bring up a point. Poop patrols.
Poop patrols. I just remember that story from a long time ago.
Any city that has to have poop patrols. We're not talking about the ones who clean up the dog park.
And they pay the poop patrollers.
And how's that for a resume builder? Thank you for coming in, Mr. Smith. I see in your last job you worked for the Poop Patrol. Tell me, what are your qualifications to be a cybersecurity programmer now? Well, I scooped more poop than any man on my shift. Well, thank you. You're hired. All right, so here's the deal. San Francisco, story here on Daily Caller came out yesterday. The iconic retailer Nordstrom, national chain. Nordstrom has closed down its flagship location now as of this past Sunday after 35 years in San Francisco. They shut her down. They just went ahead and said, you know what, we're out of here. A Nordstrom employee at the San Francisco location partially attributed the closure to the rampant crime in the area. According to ABC News 7. Property crime, which includes shoplifting, is up 57%. 57% in San Francisco in the last 3 years. The Nordstrom employee said, well, it's definitely partially due to the crime.
Partially? What? What else is it?
They tried to say COVID also had a big impact.
COVID's done. It's gone.
Yeah.
Bye.
I guess everybody's still shopping online. I don't know. No, it says a Nordstrom official attributed the San Francisco departure to decreased sales revenues and changing dynamics. Well, the decreased sales revenues are because of the changing dynamics in the area. Yeah. San Francisco is in, and I had that article a few months back. San Francisco is in what they call a death spiral. They can't pull out right now. And at the bottom of 39 stores, including Whole Foods and Office Depot and now Nordstrom, have all vacated downtown San Francisco.
Well, that's probably not even including the ones that are privately owned.
Oh, yeah, not part of a franchise or chain?
Right, like just a small business. Who knows how many of those have closed down? And what are they trying to do to help it? Other than saying,
nothing.
no, you can keep doing what you're doing, guys.
They're putting poop patrols out.
They're putting...
We'll help you clean the nastiness out from your front steps of your store if you'll just please stay open.
When you gotta go, just go. We'll clean it up after.
Yo, Lord. But here's the thing. Part of it is because there is a culture of rot going on right now. I coined that phrase just now. I wrote it, and it's right there at the top of the page.
Culture of rot.
Culture of rot.
I like it.
All right, meaning they're rotting from the inside out in San Francisco. Here's the next story. Ready? Los Angeles Times reports as of yesterday, one San Francisco bakery says it will not serve armed uniformed police or military. Union calls the policy bigoted. You think? So a place called Reams of California, which is a bakery. I guess I should go in there and like have a cup of coffee or whatever. Will not serve anyone armed and in uniform, and that also includes, quote, members of the military. The union, the police union, is demanding the chain own its own policy because they're trying to backtrack. No, we didn't really mean that. We just don't like guns we don't want you to bring your guns in. Okay, so we'll just leave the guns in the car? I mean, what do you want to do?
Let me leave it on top of my car while
I
come in
just
and
set it here on the sidewalk.
If
the Poop Patrol can hold this for me, I'd appreciate it. The union tweeted out, we're not asking Reams or any business with a bigoted policy to serve our officers. We're asking them to own their discriminatory policies, put up a sign so we know where not to spend money when we're on or off duty.
Oh, that's good.
That is very good. And by the way, the union rep says, this is not our interpretation. This is what they said their policy was. This is what their employee told our officer. And this is our point. If you're going to have those policies that discriminate against one group of people, you need to own it. Post it publicly. Let your potential customers make the decision that best reflects their values. By the way, we had this happen, but recently there's another business called Pizza Squared out in San Francisco. Told officers they were not welcome. The cashier, though, was fired. The store backtracked real quickly and said their employee was out of line. But this is the culture of rot that is killing San Francisco right now, just crushing it. And it's sad because it's a beautiful city. Unbelievable. All right, let's see. Do I want to do this one? I think I will go ahead and I will do this. I'll tell you what, why not? I'll do one more story. Heck. Make a decision, Phil. Good Lord. I want meatloaf for dinner. All right, here we go. What does YMCA stand for? Do you recall? Young Men's.
Yeah, I was about to say Young Men something.
Christian Association.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then why are YMCAs allowing transgenders to use whatever bathroom they feel like? Maybe they've lost their way. Story here from Daily Signal, an exclusive. Let me rattle it. It's a big one.
Sounds thick.
It's thick, 10 pages. First on the Daily Signal, small-town YMCAs in suburban Ohio have launched themselves headfirst into transgender debates by allowing men who identify as women to access the women's locker rooms. And women who have belonged to these supposedly family-friendly YMCAs for years are discovering to their shock that management considers their safety and privacy inferior to the feelings of these men. Dudes who think they're chicks, or at least want to pretend they're chicks. Local media broke the news, the story as a, I won't even, you know what, some of this is so nasty, I don't even want to read it. It just is. It's worse than meatloaf. All right, so local media broke the news earlier this year that an obese man who allegedly identifies as a woman would not be guilty of indecent exposure since when he was naked, his stomach fat covered things up. Kid you not, second paragraph of the story. It's right there. This is where roughly Ann has to take a second nausea pill right now. One Ohio mother who asked not to be identified to protect the privacy of her two daughters says she saw the man, who goes by the name Rachel Glines, fully naked and leering when she and her daughters were showering in this locker room. Katisha Young, another employee of a neighboring Fairborn YMCA, shares with Daily Signal that the same man, who also goes by the name Darren Glines, allegedly sexually assaulted her just a few months ago. One father, who's also a pastor, said, "I made the mistake of sending my girls into the locker room by themselves, and they actually walked in on him." That goes on to say the YMCA of Greater Dayton adheres to Ohio and federal laws and anti-discrimination laws, allowing all members access to its facilities. Yeah, I got news. You have lost your way, YMCA. Somewhere along the line, the YMCA has got to take a stand. They are a national organization. It's not like just because there's a local state law, they're going to require you to violate your faith-based principles. So if you want to be bold, go ahead and say, you know what, not on our watch. If you want to be woke, then do me a favor, take the C out of your name. Just be the YMA, the Young Men's Association. Stop pretending you're the Young Men's Christian Association if this is the way you're going to handle things. It's just awful. All right, tell you what, we got to take a break. I ran long. We'll come right back, take some text messages and phone calls, see if we can get Dipper number 3 going. We're heading into go home time. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Got a couple of the held on there in the line. And listen, I got to jump on some text messages too before I lose my time. But let me do this first. Boomer, I'll take line 2. Is that Rap from Athens? How you doing, man?
Doing okay. How are you, sir?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
I just heard y'all talking about the MREs, and it brought me up thinking about the dehydrated beef and pork patty.
You know what? I was one of the few guys that liked them. Did you like them or not?
No, I didn't care for them.
Here's the thing. Somebody taught me a recipe with those. I used to take the big square cracker. I'd take the big square cracker. I would hydrate the beef patty. I would slice it up real thin. I'd put the ketchup paste on the cracker, and then squirt some cheese on it and make pizza, or so I called it.
Okay. Never got that creative, but I do remember those. The chicken a la king.
Oh yeah.
And, I always remember I had one drill sergeant that would eat them just dry.
Just you know what? If you snack on them dry, you better make sure you drink some water afterwards. They're going to suck every bit of water out of your body.
Oh yeah, he had a canteen in his hand. He was an old ranger.
Dadgum right. All right,
But,
Rap.
yeah, he was.
Hey, what branch of the service were you? Army?
I was in the National Guard.
All right. Well, appreciate your service, brother. Thank you so much.
Like I said, I was a 12B.
Hey, 12B. There you go. All right, dude. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Let me grab the other line real quick. Is that Jeff from Indiana? Hey, Jeff Rowe. How you doing, bud?
Doing good, Phil.
Good. What's on your mind?
Hey, if San Francisco is going to survive, they maybe need to take a page out of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, how they do things.
What? Tell me.
I mean, we had, most of everybody was from out of town and everything and stuff, but there were more guns on the street there than probably is in the whole city of San Francisco. We didn't have no shootings, no drive-bys or anything else. And I didn't see any poop on the streets.
Yeah.
Everyone was welcome into businesses. And everybody was just, happy and go lucky. And, we had a parade of Jeeps instead of a parade of creeps, like they have in San Francisco.
A parade of Jeeps instead of a parade of creeps. I love that. Yeah, isn't that amazing? When you have law-abiding good people massing in a certain location and everything goes well, and then you have San Francisco claiming they just need more laws because nothing's going well. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, businesses there are thriving, and people are looking for any little space they can get in there. But yeah, I mean, it's the difference between the conservatives and liberals. It's just liberals cannot survive on their own because they're just, basically crazy. I think. I think it's a mental illness, to tell you the truth.
There's absolutely there's no rhyme or reason to some of what happens, and San Francisco really, if you get down to it, if there's going to be a wake up call, it's going to be when San Francisco has to file for bankruptcy as a city, because I think it's coming, man.
Well, they're already bankrupt. This whole nation's bankrupt. We just haven't declared it yet. I mean, would you loan any money to the United States?
Every time somebody buys a bond is what they're technically doing. All right.
But they're lose money because the interest rate on that bond ain't near as much as the inflation rate. So good luck.
I know it. Jeff, where are you at right now, man? You on the road?
Yep, I'm about halfway to Nashville.
All right, brother. Well, be careful.
I'm still moving. Have a good one, Phil.
We'll see you, man. I'll get a couple of these texts before I go. Mike from Athens says, ever since Gavin Newsom took over as governor, the state is a disaster indeed. Mike from Owens Crossroads says, regarding the YMCA, it's high time we start fighting back by creating a scene anytime men enter a women's dressing room. If calling the police or yelling rape is necessary, then so be it. I'd be honest with you, it's going to take people speaking out, absolutely. Chuck from Oneida, Tennessee, says, if a dude identifies as a woman, walks in the bathroom shower with my wife or my daughter, I'm going to identify as a tooth fairy and relieve him of his teeth. Chappie from Madison says, Phil, listen to your bit on Riley Gaines today. Wondered if you heard about Vadi Bocham's teachings, Man and Woman by God's Design, that references two people that I knew nothing about, Alfred Kinsey and John Money. All right, long text. So to answer your question briefly, I have not heard of them, but I appreciate you bringing it to my attention, man. Chappie from Madison, appreciate that. Jerry from Athens, real quick. When I was young, only males went to the YMCA, females went to the YWCA. Don't know when that changed, but you're right. Most Christian organizations have succumbed to wokeness. Sad but true, only because too many people are staying silent, though, in my opinion. And then Brian from Huntsville says there was a foreshadowing. It was when the village people sang YMCA. And you're going to be singing that all day now. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation, Alabama. I'm talking about we send our signal in the show way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Hey, by the way, tell you what, somebody else that covers a lot of ground is our friends at Southern Immediate Care. So Southern Immediate Care, they're a chain of clinics that cover a big swath of North Alabama. I mean, they got locations in Gadsden, Atala, Anniston. They got 5 locations around the Birmingham metro area. The 2 newest ones are in Chelsea and Hoover. I'm just going to tell you, folks, if you're looking for medical care, they're open 7 days a week. And I am straight up when I say this is who I use. In the Gadsden area, I go to Southern Immediate Care. And the facilities are always clean. The health staff's always helpful. You can go in on a Saturday morning if you have to. Walk in. They'll see all ages. I'm talking from pediatric up to geriatric. They cover all of it. And listen, I know the guy that owns the chain. What a great dude. I mean, just a solid guy. I mean, he's a right-side ruffian who owns a chain of clinics, and he wanted to be a part of the show, and we appreciate it. But they also provide great medical care. So if you need something, look them up on the line, on the web, find the location nearest to you, and yeah, Southern Immediate Care is where you need to go. Tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. I got a caller on the line. Let me go to line 1 real quick there, boom. Brian from Decatur. How you doing, man? Did we lose him? Brian from Decatur? Brian from Decatur? Bueller? If we lost him, we'll get back to him. I'll take some text messages real quick before I go on. Where did we have the last text message I have not got to? Bill from Huntsville said, I wasn't able to text in yesterday on the Dipper about common sense, but the text could also deal with woke world. The above memes are what would probably most people with common sense think about woke politics. So he sends me a couple of memes. And there's Paul Darlin from Andy Griffith saying, have you listened to some folks for a minute and thought their cornbread ain't quite done? That's classic. And then, of course, the other one is Granny from Granny from Beverly Hillbillies. If common sense was lard, most people wouldn't be able to grease a pan. That's the kind of listeners we have. Thank you. Barry from Athens says, I was under the assumption the Jacksonville murderer had committed, I don't know what he's saying to me. Okay. Committed suicide. Oh, I see. Brother, check your spell check. Okay. I don't know the answer to that. All I do know is this. The shooting, as it happened down there in Jacksonville, was apparently race-related, and the sheriff, who's a black man, is having none of the racism/gun control questions. He's like, don't even try. What we got here, Brian from Huntsville texted in, says San Francisco, sad. Instead of Dirty Harry, we now have Harry and Dirty. That's just, that was a great dad joke. That was a great dad joke.
That was a great dad joke.
That one. Do we have any applause?
Oh, no, there we go.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Brian from Huntsville, yes. So number 3 in the Triple Dipper. Let me start off by saying this. Every once in a while, something happens in politics or in a debate. And by the way, there are things that happen in debates that are truly meaningful. I mean, and Ronald Reagan had 2 of the greatest debate moments perhaps ever. Now, there was the first one when he was he debating Walter Mondale? I think he may have been. And and he's debating Walter Mondale, and there's a question about Reagan being older. And Reagan stepped into it with all the aplomb and calm and sort of that demeanor he had. He goes, well, I'm not gonna allow age to become a factor here. I personally refuse to allow my opponent's youth and inexperience be a factor in this race. And the audience went wild. And even the debate moderator lost it. Even Walter Mondale lost it for a moment. It was one of those things where you could tell that a topic had been thought about. How can we respond? How can we disarm? It was great. Here's the other one. In the final week of the 1980 presidential campaign between Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, the 2 candidates actually held their only debate. All right, it was one debate, October 28th. Carter had actually been, inexplicably, his campaign was actually picking up some speed. And it was kind of a close race at that particular moment. And then during the debate, Ronald Reagan asked a question that has become one of the most important campaign questions of like all time. It's repeated. It's been used multiple times. And I guarantee you there were people who looked at that and thought, why didn't I ever think to ask it that way? All he did was, during the debate, Ronald Reagan simply asked the question of the audience, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And voters said a resounding no, basically. And the question just resounded. So how easy is that? Now, I look at this. Let me ask you, when you're talking to a liberal, if some of y'all do, when you're talking to someone who doesn't know about how to vote, the simplest way to start that conversation right now in Biden economy is to say, well, let me ask you a question. I mean, think about it this way. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And I guarantee you, if they're being truthful, the answer is very likely no. I mean, you can take it at a variety of angles. You could talk about the economy. You could talk about security. You could talk about foreign policy, all of it. But for right now, let's just talk about what Joe Biden has decided to embrace as Bidenomics. Now, at one point during his presidential tenure, you may recall that President Obama was responsible for getting, Obamacare put in place. And at some point during the next campaign, I believe it was, Obama chose to embrace the words Obamacare. He decided, don't let them try to beat you up like, it's Obamacare and that's bad. Embrace it. And so he did. And, because he was a smooth operator, he got away with it. He embraced Obamacare, and he even said he was proud of it. You can tell that Joe Biden is trying to do that right now because we've been talking about, as conservatives, his lousy Bidenomics, like how awful the economy has gotten. Biden has tried to flip the script. He has tried unsuccessfully over the last few weeks to say, well, Bidenomics is working. I'm all about Bidenomics. I've chosen to embrace the name Bidenomics. Now, I'm actually saying it with a lot more zeal than he does, but you know what I mean. They've actually been using the term now because they've decided they have to try and own it, and it's just not working. Because all people have to do is honestly look at themselves in the mirror and just ask a simple question. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And the answer, honestly, is going to wind up being a no. So, yeah, here we have Biden, and for the Democrats, he's top of the ticket. I mean, unless something happens and he doesn't run, he's the top of the ticket. And so here's the deal. There are Democrats in battleground states that are having trouble embracing his Bidenomics campaign. They would really rather not. So here's a story from USA Today, which is not known, by the way, for being a conservative publication. It says, while President Joe Biden touts a recovering economy as Bidenomics, a political slogan coined for his economic agenda, House Democrats in battleground states have been a little bit more mellow when it comes to taking credit for the economy's strengths. That's because they know that you just can't take credit for what you killed. That's like saying, yeah, I destroyed your crops, but then I planted some more seeds and I grew a little bit, so I'm responsible for feeding you. Really? That's what we got right now. Biden's policies crushed the economy, crushed it. Gas prices through the roof. We've got, epic inflation. We've got any number of indicators. Interest rates are up. The supply chain is disrupted. All said and done, it's been a mess. As I hit the cough button. Golly, Boomer, start talking or something, man.
Well, I'm just over here going, wow, he hit that cough button for a really long time.
It's like I swallowed wrong or something.
It just took you for a loop.
It did. I don't know what to say. Bidenomics has got me all tore up. My eyes are watering. Oh, golly. Okay, anyway, Bidenomics is just, ruining the economy, and yet they want to claim that it's great. But a story came out, and you gotta love Kamala Harris. I mean, she's one of those that we can look at daily and go, bless her heart. That's where we are with Kamala. Bless her heart. By the way, is she really out there campaigning right now? I don't see much in the way of a Biden campaign. They're certainly keeping Kamala under wraps. But yeah, Fox News has a story. Headline, Kamala Harris's slip-up reveals how Bidenomics is actually hurting America's families. So in the midst of President Biden's campaign to try and sell Bidenomics to American voters, Vice President Kamala Harris, it says, made a curious admission. Speaking about the cost of getting an abortion, there's a speech. Bidenomics, let's talk about how much it costs to get an abortion. How about milk and bread? How about the essentials of life? Speaking about the cost of getting an abortion, she stated that, quote, most Americans are just $400 unexpected expense away from bankruptcy. Okay, if you're trying to say the economy's working, maybe your point is not to say how bad everybody's doing. If you're trying to say my team is the winning team, maybe you don't want to talk about all the reasons why people aren't believing your team. But that's where we are. When they have to live a lie, and that's the thing, a lie will always come back to get you at some point. When they're trying to live a lie, at some point they realize that you have to keep lying to keep up the lie. And yet eventually the truth will slip out. Like when she's talking about her desire for the world to have free abortions on demand, she talks about how expensive it is. And then, oh, by the way, points out that Americans are having a hard time meeting their expenses. Most Americans are just $400 unexpected expense away from bankruptcy. Thank you, Madam Vice President. We appreciate your Bidenomics speech. That's exactly what that was. I mean, right now we've got the Lending Club has what they call their paycheck to paycheck report for June. They confirm that there's been recent surveys that say that a majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 53% of consumers who earn $50,000 to $100,000 per year. So the problem extends well beyond lower income. He goes on to point out that things like the massive spending in the American Rescue Plan and the Infrastructure Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act plan have done nothing but throw money into the economy, and yet we're still seeing the Fed talking about having to raise the rates again, which is crushing the residential sales market. Folks, I'm telling you, just ask yourself the simple question, am I better off today than I was 4 years ago? And if you're honest, or if the people you're talking to are honest, they'll have to say, well, since bacon costs 17% more this year than it did last year, the answer would be no. All right, we're going to take a break right now. I'm going to suck on a cough drop or something. I don't know what just happened. Swallowed wrong and had to hit the button. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Go home time. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Solid conservative and just plain right. Making common sense a superpower. Hey, listen, I got to tell you about our friends at ZLA Solutions. ZLA Solutions. They do all kinds of things for businesses, lots of them. They can help you with things like your sorting and containment, your quality control, your logistics, your warehousing, all that kind of stuff. But ZLA Solutions, their bread and butter remains staffing. If you need people, they can find people. They can find them with special niche skills, hard to find. Maybe you'll need a few people, or maybe you need an entire shift of folks. I'm just going to tell you, ZLA Solutions, their website is zlausa.com. Check them out. You need people, they can find them. Recruiting, background checks, drug testing, all of it. Blue collar, white collar, no collar, I always say, it don't matter. And ZLA Solutions has been with this show since the very beginning, and we appreciate it. But yeah, ZLA Solutions, you need help with your business, check them out, zlausa.com. That's their website. And tell them, by the way, you heard about it on Right Side Radio. I would appreciate it. So, by the way, the grades are already in with minutes to spare. So we can screw up today and still get our grade. Phil, you get an A- today. Brian from Huntsville's dad joke gets him an A+. Wow. Boomer, you got off to a rough start today by saying you didn't like Meatloaf and not knowing what show Bob Barker hosted, but then you completed the greatest comeback in the history of Right Side Radio by playing so many home fry sound effects that I lost count by saying there'll be prizes for the football pick'em, so you win with an A++.
All right.
Oh, my gosh. Awesome. I always love the teachers that give extra credit points. That's the best kind.
Me too.
Yeah. Penny from Athens says, Phil, always keep cough drops when you're on the air. They're like a lifesaver of a different kind. Penny, I got a whole bag of Ricola in the drawer for that very reason. And thank you very much. I told Boomer earlier, I had neck surgery a few years back, the kind where they go through the front of your neck to fuse the vertebra in the back of your neck, old paratrooper stuff. And I swear I swallow wrong all the time because of it. Don't know why. It just happens. So anyway, there's that. Now I've just humanized myself to the audience, but I got no complaints. Jeff from Indiana, it's okay, Phil. It was just Bidenomics you were choking on. Like it's choking the life out of the country, he says. Ben from Decatur says, Bidenomics, it cost my family over $3,500 a year in cost of living and even less for retirement. Wow. Sorry, Ben. I hear you, though, man. Mike from Athens, when is Kamala Harris and her family going to start paying reparations? They ain't. That's going to go away. That was called mollycoddling people. That's where you tell people up front, that's a dumb idea. No, we're not going to investigate it. But no, what did Gavin Newsom do? We should start thinking this through. Would you form a commission? Thinking surely they would stop. And no, they didn't. They came back with a recommendation. Roughly in from Huntsville checking on me. You okay, Phil? Yes, I am. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Roughly in. Dave from Hazel Green says, Phil, Fisherman's Friend is the best cough drop on the market. Dave in Hazel Green. I've never heard of Fisherman's Friend.
Never heard of Fisherman's Friend. I don't even.
What do fishermen need special formulaic?
I bet they do.
Cough drops?
Just special things.
Yes, just
special cough drops.
because they're special. Okay. Do they make a meatloaf flavored
Friend.
cough drop?
Oh, gross.
I'll end with this last story I've got on Bidenomics as I finish up this third of the Triple Dipper. Washington Examiner, why voters are not buying Bidenomics. President Joe Biden is frustrated. Unemployment has fallen to a healthy 3.6%. The economy is growing at a decent 2.4%. Inflation has now dropped down to roughly 3%. And yet, all this good economic news, the vast majority of voters still rate the economy as poor and blame Biden for its sorry state. What gives? One CBS News poll, it points out, found that 65% of adults would rate the economy as bad, and just 13% said they were getting better financially. You know, part of that is because they don't trust who's in charge. Even when the numbers begin to improve, you still know where they came from. And so if you can't trust the guy, you don't know what it's going to be tomorrow. Market uncertainty is not just based on what we see today. It's on the fear of what's coming in the future. And so I'm going to tell you right now, Bidenomics, Biden is bad for the economy. The polls show it. People aren't dumb. They vote with their wallets. And the truth be told, Biden economy sucks. And yet we're being told it's working. It's wonderful. It's great. That's the gaslighting of the to the nth degree. But I'm going to tell you right now, people recognize where it came from. All you have to do, like I said, is ask the original Reagan question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? The answer is no. And you know why? Because you know who's been in charge for the last 3 years of those 4-year term we're talking about. Yeah, absolutely. Bidenomics, I'm not for it. I'm looking for 2024, man. I tell you all the time, though, it took a Carter to bring us a Reagan. Maybe it'll take a Biden to bring us something like a Reagan. I hope so. All right, you guys have an amazing night. I'll have more cough drops here tomorrow. We'll see you then.